Hello and welcome to this tutorial in which we're going to go through vector data and how to add it into ArcMap and how to do some basic manipulation of data by moving about, zooming in and out, and so on. So the first thing you need to do is download the project data from the website here, andlearn.org.uk, download OpenStreetmap Anglesey data, and you just want to download this file onto your computer. In that file we have some data from the OpenStreetmap project, which is a global mapping data producing open data of places, roads and so on, and it's a good resource for finding freely available data. So you see that my file is downloaded. I just open this. And we're just going to copy this file, this folder, which contains the OpenStreetmap data, into somewhere where I know. So I'm using a folder on my root drive C. You may need to use the D drive, for example, or you could use your desktop. I'm just putting them in here so I know where they are, somewhere where I can find them in future quite quickly and easily. So I'm just going to copy my data across. And I'm just going to rename the folder. Just so I know exactly what it is, I can find it again in future. Okay? You see that I'm using underscores between numbers and words and so on. I'm just trying to give myself a little bit of clarity, whilst at the same time trying not to use spaces in the file name. They may cause some problems with some scripts, and if you do have a space in the file name, you may find yourself getting some confusing errors when using some tools within the ArcGIS system. So, what we're going to do now is just open up a new ArcMap document, and we're going to prepare to start adding data in. Now the first thing that you know is if you look at this down here, you can see that it says some numbers, 2 numbers, and unknown units. And if I go up, you see that this number here is moving. If I go this way, you see that this number here is moving. These are the coordinates of the data frame, this region here. And you see it currently says unknown units, which suggests that right now this display does not have a coordinate system or projection defined. What Arc will do is load in the projection system or the coordinate system of the first layer of data that you add, and it will assume that every other piece of data that comes in is the same. In some situations you may find that data isn't exactly where it should be, it's way off, thousands of miles away. If you do have that, then you've got a problem with your data not being clearly defined. We'll cover that in a later session, but right now we're going to focus on actually getting some data into the GIS system. Now there's several ways that we can add data in. First way, if we go to our GIS files folder, vector data, you'll see here that the actual data from the OpenStreetmap I've given you is quite a lot of different files, 64 files in total. And you see that one file here, the base name is buildings, and then the file extension is CPG. And if you just select all these here all got the same base name. This is essentially what a shapefile is in ArcGIS. It's a cluster of multiple files, each doing different things. So DBF contains your actual data, which might be attributed to a field, for example, like the name of a place or the size of a field or something like that. It's actually got numbers and data in it. The shapefile contains the coordinates of where things are. And then the rest of them, PRJ, contains projection information. All of these files, if you ever share or wish to receive a shapefile, you will always have more than one file. So don't just send the .shp file. People will not be able to open it. It will generate an error in ArcGIS. What you need to do is make sure that you send all of the files with the same base name, different extensions from that particular folder. So this is what it looks like when you just use Windows Explorer or another file manager. If we go into Arc and we're going to navigate through Arc to try and find it using Arc Catalog. So you can see here we've got a catalog icon on the side. If we click this, it brings out a very, very useful file manager. You can also bring that up by clicking on this button here. I'll go in Windows Catalog. When we first do this, you see that it's that difficult. We can look through, we can't really find anything. What we need to do is connect to a folder, and you see that we should have some icons and folders here. The first thing we need to do is just click this button here, connect to folder. Brings up a prompt. All I'm going to do is just navigate through to find the folder that I want to work in, which is 2 vector data. Click OK. You see that's added into the folder connections area here. I'm just going to expand this directory, and you see that we have something very, very different from what we saw in Windows Explorer. We've actually got just a single file being shown with that single base name. So this is essentially the better way to look at directories containing many shapefiles, because you can actually find exactly what you need. So we see also that the icons have now been given to these particular layers. So we've got one here which is like little polygons, we've got some lines, and we've got these points. So that gives us an insight into what the data set actually is. And that's the second way that we could potentially add data in. The third way to use this button here, add data. So if we do that, you see that we've got the same folder connections as what we've got over here in our catalogue as well. So we can just navigate to that. It automatically added it for me there. So let's add data. So I'm going to add in 3 layers. The first layer I'm going to add in is going to be coastline, and we're going to do that using the file manager. So if you head to the file manager, find coastline, select the SHP, and we drag that across. You see that we've actually got that dragged in. We've dragged it into the table of contents, and it's automatically added it in. Now those of you who are eagle-eyed will see now that down here it says decimal degrees, and it gives us something that actually looks like it makes sense with respect to the latitude and longitude that the island of Anglesey on. This is North Wales. You see that we're at -4 degrees in terms of longitude, and 53 degrees latitude. So that's the first layer I've added, coastline. The next layer I'm going to add is going to be the roads, and I do that through catalogue. And I'm just going to drag that in, and drag it onto the table of contents. I can change the location of where I want to put it. I can put it above or below the coastline, or I can just drag it into the display. And you see here, this magenta colour is now the roads. The final one I wish you to add is places, and we're going to do that by using the add data tool. Select it, places, and click add. And there we go. We've now got our data in ArcMap. Now, when you first add it, you see that we've got this little hand icon has been enabled. We can move this about, dragging our display about. But we also have different ways that we can manipulate this. We can zoom in and out, we can use fixed zoom, maximum extent, and so on. So we see here on this toolbar here, which is called Tools, we've got some commonly available tools that we use to navigate through data. So the first one, I'm going to work my way through each one. We've got zoom in. How do you do? Click and drag. So let's zoom into Menai Bridge, Bangor area. But what if we want to zoom out? Well, we can click and drag to zoom out, or we can just click and we'll zoom out at a fixed interval. Zoom back in. We've got the hand, which allows us to pan through our data as if we're searching for something. We've also got this world icon, which will take us to full extent. So if we click it, it takes us out to the full extent of all of our data. We've got fixed zoom in, which zooms us in by a set amount, and fixed zoom out. And if we want, we can go back in time to previous views that we had, and we can also navigate through this as well, using these forwards and backwards arrows. So, that's it. Adding data in. You're now actually a GIS user. You've got some data in the GIS. You can navigate, you can find where you live. For example, you can look in Bangor area at the roads around Bangor. You can zoom back out to the full extent for all of your data. One quick tip is that you can reorganize the order of these layers within the table of contents. So if sometimes you can't see something, you can always just move it about. Finally, we're going to save the ArcMap document. File, Save As. This saved only the ArcMap document. It does not save any of the data that you have in it. It just linked to them. So if you want to send somebody your map, you need to make sure that you also give them a copy of all of the data that you've linked to in the map as well. Just click save. Remember to save regularly, because software does have a tendency to crash on some occasions. So make sure you save regularly so that you don't lose too much work. Thank you for listening. I hope you found that useful.